It's and being a CEO, obviously, of your organization, many people, they may not lead organizations, but they lead themselves, they lead their families. They even maybe have a small group in their church, or they have a small community thing that they're doing. So there is leadership applies to everything, especially when you're trying to raise kids. Leadership is everything. So I really appreciate that comment. And so speaking of the comment, doesn't surprise me that would come from you, because your father famously said, "You don't build businesses, you build people, and people build businesses." So I was wondering, how has that philosophy evolved in your leadership style and your leadership journey?
Yeah, well, we've created a leadership program which we call the Ziglar Coach Leadership. And so we really do it from a coaching mindset and perspective. I think if you ask the average person on the street, do you want to be asked what you should do or what to do, or do you want to be told what to do? Most people they prefer to be asked. And if I give a directive and say, this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it, buy-in is very low. But if I ask questions that are centered around what that person's objective or why or, personal goal or dream is, and you ask them those clarifying questions, and then you say, would you like some help getting there faster? Almost everybody's going to say yes to that, right? Because now,
That's right.
now you're in alignment, and then you start asking more questions, and they all of a sudden create their own plan with your help and your nudging. And then you can simply say, is it okay if I hold you accountable to your plan? And who says no to that? And so when I think of leadership and how we look at it differently, yeah, you gotta build the people. And in our view, results are very important, but growth is even more important. So a great leader focuses on growth first and results. Not growth instead of results or no results at all, but it's like if you are becoming a more capable person every single day, I want you on my team. The results are going to come, right?
Yeah. I love the fact that leadership usually associates with some type of power, control, or influence, but growth actually stunts all that, because that's the trump card to having people grow and become something different. Yes, I think I've heard this from your dad. Actually, says when you change, everything around you changes, and when you get better, everything around you gets better. So, and that's a growth moment right there for sure.
Absolutely, 100%.
So as you've developed people in leadership and obviously in your company and others, many of them come to you for advice. So what are some of the common maybe blind spots that you see in young entrepreneurs when it comes down to business and sustaining a business or building a business?
Yeah, there are the things that are always going to be there, and then there are things that are unique to the time that we're in, right? Because it's always changing. And I heard a quote today, and it said, "We are living today in the least disruptive time we're ever going to live in," meaning that tomorrow is going to be more disruptive than today is, right?
Yeah.
And so disruption, that's the speed of disruption, it's happening with more frequency and more intensity. And of course, at every level in every industry, AI is coming in and having a huge impact. And so there are the things that are changing that as leaders, we've got to embrace and put our arms around, that are signs of the times. And then there are the things that never change, love and integrity and trust. Those things never change. And so how do we bridge that gap? So young leaders are really trying to figure out how to grow and be effective, and they're getting hit from both sides constantly. Hey, things are always changing. Run here, do this, go over here. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. AI is going to do that for you. And so if they lean too far that way, they lose all their relationships. But if they do only relationships, which is fantastic, and they don't figure out how to leverage AI and technology and the new things, then they're not developing as deep or as many relationships as they could. And that's not a good thing either. And so a leadership mindset is understanding that if I'm humble and that things are going to change, and I start to embrace these things And my North Star is, will it help me serve my people and my customer better? If that's how I make the decision, then I'm all in. I never violate the values and the virtues, but I can use these tools to help me be better. And so that's the big thing. It's the dance. It's that, do I have what it takes? That's what everybody wonders. And if I go into leadership, can I make a living doing this? Right? And then will I be relevant? Because I just saw a LinkedIn report that said that the bottom the bottom rung of the career ladder is gone because big companies are using AI to do that work.
Yeah.
And then Amazon just made an announcement where they've got robots in the distribution center, they've got self-driving trucks, and they're going to have robots take the package from the truck to the house.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going to happen? Well, leadership has got to get our arms around this and help people understand the value they have that can never be replaced in this time. So that's the challenge for today. But the old school relationships built on integrity and trust, that never changes.
No, it's so true. As I'm diving into AI and seeing how that affects my business, how it affects my life, I realize that AI is very good at getting us information and spitting back words that you can use to construct things better, whether it be emails, texts, etc. But what I realize that it doesn't do is it asks the questions about the idiosyncrasies of people, because that's really where relationships are formed, is based on, what's valuable to you, what's valuable to me, how do we interact, how do we connect. And I totally agree with what you're saying, based on leadership and how you develop companies and organizations, enterprises, so to speak.
Yeah, in that regard, when we're working with leaders, and they bring up the subject of AI, there's three things that AI will never be able to do. They'll never be able to build a relationship. I mean, AI, it'll never have wisdom, right? Because it has a lot of knowledge, but wisdom is around values and virtues and different things. And those are key. But here's maybe the biggest one, is AI will never believe in you, right? And think about it. Think about the turning points in your own career. You can probably point back to a leader or a coach or a mentor who said, I think if you just did this, you could go to a level you can't even imagine. And because you believed them, you took the step. And then all these doors opened up and your success took off and all that. Well, you've put a prompt into AI and it'll say, "Oh, what a great question. You're so smart," right? Do you believe it?
Yeah, right.
No, you don't believe it. But when a leader tells you that, somebody you respect tells you that, it's a whole different game. And so that's the key. And so as leaders, we're building relationships. It's on the foundation of integrity and trust and wisdom. But it's really that transfer of confidence and belief in our people that helps them go beyond what they think they can do. Because we've all done more than we thought we could because somebody believed we could do more than we thought we could.
So true. I've heard actually from another wise entrepreneurial coach says that a leader in sales is to protect the confidence of their salespeople. And as you take that one step further, just what you were talking about, how do you do those things that you just described in a digital format, in a digital world? There's very few times that we're person to person. Just like you're in your office in Atlanta, I'm in my podcast room here in Tampa, and yet we're able to interact almost as if we're in person. However, that dynamic of body language and all those other things sometimes is lost, in the feel of the environment is sometimes lost. So how does that translate into this new workplace?
Yeah. So when you say in the digital world, you meaning a Zoom call, or you meaning?
Yeah, Zoom, and everybody's remote. There's nobody's going into offices now. There's a lack of physical contact. That's what I'm talking.
Yeah. So in the book that I wrote called 10 Leadership Virtues for Disruptive Times, one of the things I really studied was what happened in the pandemic and the work from home and remote work and hybrid work. And all these different things. And I kind of nerded out on it and read every report around it for 2 years. And, we've got Jamie Dimon who says, no, everybody needs to come into the office. And then you got other people say, no, people are much more happier and effective working from home. And the truth is that there are circumstances where both are right.
Right.
But here's the reality. It's a different skill set that a leader needs to learn in order to effectively grow and develop people who are primarily remote.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a bias around geography. If we're sitting in the same room with somebody 3 days a week and an idea comes up, who do we share the idea with? We go to the person in the office next to us or the cube
Right.
next to us.
Right.
And so you've got a little bit more bias towards that individual for opportunity than somebody who is on your team and you're meeting with them once a week. And so how does a leader overcome that? Well, you overcome it by learning the skills that create relationship and trust face to face or through a Zoom call. And it's really by the questions that you ask, right? And then you're intentional about it. If you have a West Coast company and you call your impromptu team meeting at 4 p.m. Pacific time, your East Coast people are going to miss it.
Right.
Right. So you've just got to plan in advance. But I think the reality is that remote allows you on average to attract a higher quality of person because you're not bound by a geographic area. But it takes a different level of leadership ability to lead that group. And this is what we know, and this is what the results tell us. Companies that are 100% remote or people who are 100% on location companies, they have an easier time than the hybrids.
Sure.
Right. So if
More
you're
skills involved.
yeah. So if you're doing a hybrid, you get the best of both worlds, but you got to raise your game even more. And then there are certain age groups and personalities and industries that don't lend well to the hybrid, right? To a lot of Zoom. So you've got to take that into account. I love it. I love working from home. Our whole team works from home. But when we bring people in, it's like, man, I can't believe we waited so long to get together, right? It's just different.
That's so true.
You can do that. You can raise your leadership skill to do that. And it's really around a clarity on your purpose and your why, the intention of the questions that you ask, and how frequent you are meeting with people. It takes a lot more courage in a Google Doc or to raise your hand and say, I don't know the answer to that, right?
Right.
Because it's saved into eternity.